Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So it turns out I'm not the only one that thinks about these really pointless and silly concepts, because based on the response that you guys have given me in the last couple of videos, a lot of you guys think about these things as well. Which are the most losingest Yu-Gi-Oh characters ever? Which anime ace monster was summoned in the most duels? And in today's video, we are going to be looking at which duels throughout the entire history of Yu-Gi-Oh were the longest in terms of turns. Now, if you play modern day Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like most duels are decided within 2 to 5 turns. Like when I turn on Master Duel, most of the times the duels are finished before turn 5. Some of the duels on this list are insane, including a duel that lasted 41 freaking turns. So we are just going to get into it. A little bit of criteria. We are counting continuous duels, so like the Zark duel in Arc 5 counts. All of the riding team matchups in 5Ds are eligible for this list. And if a duelist takes over for another duelist and that duel continues and the turn count continues to run, that duel is also eligible. There's a lot that are going to be obviously from the original Yu-Gi-Oh, as I'm sure you guys are probably figuring out, but let's take a look. These are the 10 Yu-Gi-Oh anime duels with the most turns in Yu-Gi-Oh history. I hope you guys enjoy. Number 10, Team 5Ds versus Team Taiyo, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds episodes 119 through 122, which lasted 26 turns. So this is the first duel kicking off our top 10, and you can already see that the criteria is 26 turns, which nowadays would be an insanely long duel. But when you have a 3v3 setup, and the way that those riding duels worked is that they would be 1v1 matchups, it would basically be elimination matchups until one team had eliminated the entire other team's duelist. It kind of makes sense that a couple of these duels would reach pretty astronomical turn lengths because they're kind of 3 or 4 separate duels merged into one package. Team 5Ds versus Team Taiyo. If you've never watched Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds subbed, you will not remember this duel at all because it is one of the many Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds duels that was actually never dubbed in English. So if you're a dub watcher, you probably don't even remember this duel, but this is one of the 10 longest duels we've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Another duel tied for 9th is Joey versus Bandit Keith from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episodes 31 to 32, which lasted 26 turns as well. So I don't really remember this duel being too long, but when I went back and watched it, there were a lot of turns that Joey took where he would simply draw a card, set a monster, and pass, or sometimes just draw a card and end his turn. Again, this is pre-Battle City Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, Duelist Kingdom Yu-Gi-Oh! Was crazy. You could just summon monsters without tributes. And so a little bit of a spoiler alert, there are going to be a couple of duels from this arc that really do compile this list. The duel does end with Red Eyes Black Dragon beating Bandit Keith. Bandit Keith is found to be cheating. He holds a gun to Pegasus's head. It's one of the more famous dub censorships probably ever in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe even all of anime. And this duel does crack the top 10 as one of the longest turn duels in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Coming in 8th is Team 5Ds versus Team Unicorn, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds episodes 98 through 102, which lasted 27 turns. This is our last non-original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel that even makes this list, which is kind of crazy, and it's no shock that it's another turbo duel, which is team versus team. Some highlights from this duel is Aki summoning Stardust Dragon right before she is eliminated and passes the baton to Yusei, and of course this is the duel where Yusei took on all 3 members of Team Unicorn and defeated them with his back against the wall. All Jean needed to do was end his turn 27, and Yusei would have decked out, and that would have been it. But Yusei somehow convinces him to fight, and Jean attacks. It backfires. Yusei wins. It's one of the most, looking back on it, comical endings you'll probably ever see in a It's one of the most like anime-esque endings you'll probably ever see in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel. And Team 5Ds versus Team Unicorn is the last non-Duel Monsters representation on this list, coming in 8th place. Coming in 7th, Joey versus Odion, episodes 86 through 89, which lasted 28 turns. So I don't really remember this duel lasting as long as it did, much like I didn't remember the Joey versus Bandit Keith one being a slog, but I do remember this duel had a really interesting side B plot, because when this duel started, we as the viewer knew that Odion was not Marek, but Odion was presenting himself to the rest of the crew as Marek, and the crew believed him for the most part. So seeing Joey and seeing our gang kind of unravel the truth behind who Odion is and the real identity of Marek as this duel progressed was a lot of fun to watch. I thought there was a lot of really good dramatic irony in this duel. And once again, it's a Joey duel, so there's a lot of turns where he draws a card and just sets and passes, and that's it. Joey is actually featured quite a bit in this video. Maybe it's because he was shown to be kind of a noob duelist, so he had a lot of empty turns. I don't really know what the deal with that is, but this duel does end with the fake copy of Winged Dragon of Ra going ballistic, shocking Odion and Joey. Joey stands up, and so even though Odion's life points don't hit 0, he is declared the winner. There are 2 duels tied for 5th, the first being Yugi vs. Kaiba Round 2, which took place in Duelist Kingdom, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episodes 22 through 24, lasting 29 turns. So this one is kind of interesting, and it's a little cheap with how the turns really stacked on for this list. This duel had a lot of passing in the final third, because when Yugi poisoned the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, there was a lot of him just passing while Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon continued to get weaker. Kaiba was trying to attack the Wall of Karibos but couldn't get through it. Yugi also passed on turn 28 in order to let Kaiba live, because if he attacked, Kaiba would have fallen off the edge and consequently died really by suicide, but by the impact blast of Yugi's attack. And so through a lot of weird and wacky circumstances, this duel does climb to being one of the top 5 longest turn duels of all time. But again, it doesn't really feel that long because there are a lot of turns that are just very, very quick. Another duel tied for 5th is Joey vs. Weevil, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episodes 63 through 64, which once again lasted 29 turns. So this one is a pretty interesting one. In the beginning of this duel, it's Weevil setting a lot of monsters to fill up his graveyard in order to get his insect swarming strategy started. So because of that, there's a lot of early moves in this duel with him setting, Joey attacking, him setting, Joey attacking. And then by the end of this duel, when Weevil has set up a really good board, it's a lot of the opposite, where Joey is just kind of setting and passing or drawing a card and ending his turn because there's nothing he can do, as he's trying to figure out a strategy to get over Weevil's really good insect board. We're not done with Weevil on this list, and I do think that Weevil's strategy probably plays into him being on this list a couple of times with the insect swarm and whatnot, but I don't really remember this one being a really long duel either. Turns out it was 29 turns and is tied for 5th on this list. Number 4, Yugi vs. Weevil Round 1, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episodes 4 through 5. So one of the first true and proper duels that we ever got in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime to this day is the 4th longest turn-based duel we have ever had in any Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. It's very similar to what we just went over. Weevil had a lot of turns where he was just kind of setting and passing in order to get his insects onto the field. It's Duelist Kingdom rules, so there's a lot of wonky crap that goes on throughout this duel, and yeah, I don't really have too much else to say. Yugi versus Weevil, one of the longest duels we've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 3, Yugi and Joey versus the Paradox Brothers, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, episodes 19 through 21, which lasted 34 turns. So now we're getting into the truly absurd. If you felt like the high 20s in terms of turns was not absurd enough, now we are really getting into kind of crazy territory. This is a really fascinating duel. I would argue it is one of, if not the most unique duels we have ever seen. The tag team of Yugi and Joey are taking on the team of Para and Dox in an actual labyrinth that kind of shifts paths, and you have to move your monsters forward in accordance to, I think it's the level that they are, and if they hit another monster in the labyrinth, then the battle commences. However, you have certain monsters like Shadow Ghoul, which is able to literally move within the walls of the labyrinth, There is a lot of weird, wacky stuff that goes on in this duel. And if you've never watched this duel, and maybe you got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of recently, and you've been a fan of the more recent anime, or you're a fan of the TCG and OCG, take a look at this duel. It'll hurt your head, but you will probably really enjoy it. It's still one of my personal favorites to this day, and it's not surprising to me that it is the third longest duel in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Number 2, Yugi vs. Pegasus Round 2, episodes 35 through 39, which lasted 37 turns. So now we are getting into duels that genuinely felt very, very long. I expected Yugi versus Pegasus to be near the top. I remember how many episodes it lasted. I remember how many different back and forth exchanges there were with the different boards that were set up. And this to me is still one of the greatest duels in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Pegasus is still one of my favorite villains of all time. I know a lot of people have kind of soured on Duelist Kingdom in general because of how wonky the rule set is, which I totally understand. It really hasn't soured for me at all. I love the fact that there's basically no rules and there's a lot of weird stuff that can happen because it's just so unpredictable when you're watching through it, especially the first time. This duel eventually goes into the Shadow Realm, where Yugi and Pegasus continue to have their epic battle. Yami Yugi and Little Yugi are swapping back and forth to mitigate Pegasus's mind-reading abilities. And man, oh man, I could really gush about this duel. It's a long one, but it's an epic one in my opinion, and it is the second longest turn-based duel with 37 turns that we have ever seen in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. I do want to go over some honorable mentions and just kind of talk about the other shows. I know the Zark duel was one that probably a lot of people predicted would make it. The Zark duel only lasted 20 turns, so it was 6 turns shy of being eligible for this list. There was no duels in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains or Zexal that lasted more than 12 turns, which is crazy. Only one duel in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX reached 20 turns, which was Sho and Kenzan versus Frost and Thunder in Season 2. Do you guys remember this duel? Because honestly, I completely forgot. If someone came to me with $1 million and said, did this duel happen in GX? I'd probably say no. I don't have any recollection of this duel. That's the only GX duel that reached 20 turns. And I'm sure a lot of you probably guessed as well as I did. Yugi versus Kaiba in Battle City, Round 3. The duel that lasted 6-7 episodes. Well, it only lasted 25 turns. It missed this list by 1 turn. I honestly thought this was going to be near the top, but I'm really, really surprised that it doesn't even make the top 10. It literally comes in 11th place. The longest turn-based duel that we have ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime history is Kaiba, later taken over by Yugi, versus Noah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters episodes 114 through 118, which lasted 41 turns. I know there were probably a lot of you guys when you saw the thumbnail guessing which duel lasted 41 turns. Well, this is it. And because Yugi takes over for Kaiba and even uses his deck, this is one continuous duel. I'm not splitting it up. I think it's totally eligible. It's basically Kaiba / Yugi versus Noah. And the fact that it went 41 turns is absolutely ridiculous. Could you imagine if like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains duel lasted 41 turns? It would literally be like a 10-11 parter just to get through that many turns. Again, times were different in early Yu-Gi-Oh! There was a lot more draw, setting, draw, attacking with one monster. The game has evolved so much that you're never gonna probably have another duel that even gets close to this level. But if you've ever wondered what is the most turns a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel has had, the answer is Kaiba and Yugi versus Noah in the filler arc, which came in at 41 turns. And guys, that wraps it up. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the 10 duels with the most turns in Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime history. Let me know some duels that you maybe thought were going to be on this list. I thought the Zark duel and I thought Yugi versus Kaiba Battle City for sure would have made it. Kind of surprised they didn't. And there's a lot here that I am surprised made it. Joey versus Weevil, Joey versus Odion, Yugi versus Weevil, round 1. I'm surprised that had 30 turns. And let me know what you guys think of a list like this. Obviously, this is Duel Monsters dominated. The game has changed so much. It's evolved so much since those early Duel Monster days. And so it's not surprising that we have so many long turn duels from the original series. And if you have any other suggestions for some fun stat-related videos, please let me know down below. A huge thank you to everyone who helped me with the data compiling for this video, especially a user named Fenderbullett. He really helped me put together a lot of the data to very easily fact-check my own and make a video like this, and so I am super thankful for his help. And to all of you for watching, thank you so much. I will talk to you down in the comments. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Panther J, Blue Maiden 28, and Jarrett Buller, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood and Latrell Smith, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons, Ccapacappuuu and Syn Cloud. To everyone who supports me on Patreon, and to everyone who is a YouTube channel member, thank you so much. The extra support means the world to me, and it allows me to make videos on a semi-daily basis, and I am forever indebted to you guys. Seriously, thank you so much. And definitely check out my channel membership feature and my Patreon for some extra channel perks. And thank you guys all so much for watching. Please leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Be sure to check out my channel for some more Yu-Gi-Oh anime content. And I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.